Mystery of mysteries, water and air are right there before us in the sea. Every time I view the sea, I feel a calming sense of security, as if visiting my ancestral home. I embark on a voyage of seeing. What you see here are 3 seascapes by Japanese photographer Hiroshi Sugimoto, the Caribbean, the Ligurian and the Baltic, respectively. They were taken across a period of 16 years, and between the 3 of them there is a cohesive but distinctly different quality. In the left photo, the ripples and waves of the ocean are clearly visible, a big, dark sea, and a stark, uncomplicated white sky. In the central photo, this natural world is more abstract, the line of the horizon blurred. Even so, the colours remain the same, a more radiant heaven, above a darker hell. By the third photo, the line has come back into focus, but it's all dark. The ocean is vast, powerful and seemingly never-ending, unexplored and inconceivable to humans as small as you and I. And its influence on art and culture throughout the centuries is significant. It's no surprise, therefore, that Radiohead, who have stood at the most experimental edge of mainstream music for edging on 4 decades, have been profoundly influenced by the ocean. The best place to start is the bends. The bends takes its name from decompression sickness, an ailment caused by ascending too fast underwater, affecting divers. On the album, it's a thinly veiled metaphor for Radiohead's rise to superstardom with Creep. Musically speaking, there isn't that much to say about the ocean in the bends save for a few lyrical references. It's a similar story on OK Computer, though an outtake from this era in Lift would see Radiohead's first exploration of the lyrical motif of the fish that permeates their work. Kid A and Amnesiac, recorded between 1999 and 2000, was a soundtrack ushering in a new century. Certain lyrical motifs pop up time and time again over Radiohead's 9-album run. Worms, the number 15, cats, cars, and ocean life is one of these. But to narrow down on this even more, this notion of the fish keeps appearing. Reading too much into the lyrics of Kid A or Amnesiac is really time wasted. The words are a random assembly of syllables rather than the political commentary of an impending century of technology and fear some push onto the album. However, fish as a symbol for humanity began to emerge on Kid A. Big fish eat the little ones. The big fish eat the little ones. Or the image evoked by the title of Packed Like Sardines in a Crushed Tin Box on Amnesiac. The most interesting oceanic influence on Kid A, however, comes in Limbo. In Limbo's position and importance to Kid A as an album is often overlooked. Excluding the hidden track at the end, it barely manages to scrape above being the least listened track on Spotify on the album. Originally titled Lost at Sea, it's natural to examine this song for oceanic influence. Tom York said In Limbo has a disorienting, floaty feel, and there are several musical features within it that aid this. Like how light distorts underwater, refracting out of place, the dragging triplets of the guitar, combined with the droning quavers in the vocal part that sings Lundy, Fastnet, Irish Sea. Makes everything sound quite obscured, like it is Lost at Sea. The time signature of the opening is 6/4, split into groupings of 2 and 4, whilst the drums loop in a 4/4 pattern, creating a groove that's difficult to latch onto. The expanse and confusion of being at sea, like the lonely islands of Lundy and Fastnet that York sings of in the song. The end of the song is also important. York wails come back as the song descends into a wall of noise, evoking the work of Krzysztof Penderecki, such as his piece Polymorphia. Something Radiohead had previously explored in Blowout and Climbing Up the Walls. Piece which Johnny Greenwood described as really exciting, and something that showed him how free music could really be. Both the world as a whole, and the world for Tom York, had changed significantly between the completion of Kid A and Amnesiac in April 2000, and commencing recording for Hail to the Thief in September 2002. Hail to the Thief is Radiohead's first post-9/11 album, and is also the first Radiohead album after Tom York became a father. Therefore, the album's overall paranoid feeling is hardly surprising. Hail to the Thief presents the ocean as a powerful and dangerous, overwhelming force. In There, Tom sings about a siren singing you to shipwreck, and instructs the listener to steer away from these rocks. A demagogue of the ocean sending a ship to its fate. I'll leave it up to you to spot any parallels between this and a certain prominent politician of the 2000s. These mythical creatures are made real in a punch-up at a wedding, with Tom describing the pointless, snide remarks of hammerhead sharks. The most oceanic moment on Hail to the Thief comes in Sail to the Moon. Firstly, this draws up another image used in much of Radiohead, a connection of the sea and the sky. This is something seen, for example, in Pyramid Song, with the singing of Going to Heaven in a Little Rowboat, and the title of their 9th album, A Moon-Shaped Pool. But of course, also in Sail to the Moon, where York sings, "In the flood, you'll build an ark and sail us to the moon." This is also not to mention the natural connection between sea and sky, with the moon pushing and pulling tides to and fro. The extended chords, like the A minor 9 in bar 2, the prominence of the piano with heavy leaning on the sustain pedal, the expressive crescendos and meandering rhythms, begin to evoke Impressionism. Sail to the Moon, obviously, is not Impressionist, and it would be beyond controversial and into the realms of objectively wrong to suggest that it is, but it certainly does evoke it to some extent. This is furthered by the Impressionist conceptualization of music, with harmony, rhythm, and meter taken as something to be experienced in the moment, rather than a continuous, horizontal, overarching process. This is undeniable in Sail to the Moon. Take the 5-bar piano and guitar opening, before the entry of the rest of the band. This is noteworthy in itself, a 5-bar introduction, a prime number, an odd number, not usual for an introduction. The harmony in the introduction feels directionless and unresolved, moving from A major 7 to A minor 9 to C over F to A major 7 to C major 7, sliding between pure A major and A Aeolian seamlessly, allowing each chord to merely exist, rather than feel a pull towards each other. The ever-changing meter contributes to this, 7/4 to 2/4, back to 7/4 to 6/4, and finally for 2/4 again, in the space of just 5 bars, allowing each chord to land with an almost random, natural feel, rather than a strict mathematical one. To pull all this back to the ocean, I make the Impressionism comparison because Impressionism is so deeply rooted in water as to be inseparable from it. Not only the fact that it's a painting of water that inspired the name Impressionism, and it is arguably the most recognisable work of the whole movement, but its roots are actually in water. Leonello Venturi writes in the aesthetic idea of Impressionism of the origin of Impressionism being in a young Monet, Renoir and Pissarro, painting everything as they painted the Seine. Sail to the Moon, therefore, adopts these water-like qualities in the music. The gentle piano and guitar, like ripples on the water, with York's vocal line, and forgive the smile pun, skirting on the surface. The most overtly oceanic song in the entire Radiohead catalogue, however, is Bloom. The original version, released in 2011 on The King of Limbs, is an electronic-influenced song with a complex intertwining of loops and rhythms, like the overlapping waves of the ocean. The lyrics sing of the ocean too. Bloom was inspired by David Attenborough's Blue Planet, a landmark show documenting marine life in the world's oceans. So when Blue Planet 2, 2017's sequel to the original programme, was created, what better song to introduce it to the world than Bloom? In an orchestral rendition, in collaboration with Hans Zimmer, that the show's executive producer described as mouth-watering, the majesty and influence of the ocean is clear as day. In an interview with Vox, Zimmer, York and Greenwood talked of the influence of pointillism and aleatoric, or random music, instructing the players not to play at the same time as someone next to them, creating overlapping waves akin to the loops in the original. In Tom York's solo piano performance of Bloom, his falsetto lines somewhat evoke whale song, furthering the imagery of the ocean in this piece. Of course, aside from Radiohead, Jonny Greenwood has made a name for himself as a prominent modern classical composer. One of his pieces is entitled Water, and therefore should be examined for influence of water in the ocean. Let's look briefly at the opening of this piece. The piece opens with 6 violins and a piano, arpeggiating a C major chord with a 13th and a sharp 11th, creating a wave-like oceanic movement throughout the piece. The low strings at the letter A act like an ocean bed as the waves lap above in the higher strings, a flat, droning, dark foundation. Chromatic flute melodies dance above like dolphin fins cutting through the water. The latter parts of the piece feature striking dissonance in similar patterns, the ocean here becoming choppy, unstable. But it's not just Johnny Greenwood whose career outside of Radiohead remains constantly evolving and exciting. Over the last 2 decades, Tom York has been a constant voice for environmental activism, ranging from a long-standing association with Friends of the Earth to DJing at the COP21 march in London. Back in 2018, he contributed to a Greenpeace campaign to protect the Antarctic Ocean from the negative effects of climate change. The track he produced for the campaign is an icy electronic track, described better in a YouTube comment on the video than I ever could. This song is like one long, deep breath of an anxious Mother Earth. Cold, punching bass drums sound throughout, and a low-pass filter recedes and then restates itself. The one large breath. Radiohead's work, and the work of the members outside of Radiohead, therefore, had used the water, the ocean, and the life within it as a means to express their musical thoughts and ideas. Their messages convey the myriadic feelings that the ocean creates in us, from loneliness and bewilderment to awe at its great majesty, its unfathomable depth, and all-encompassing power.